Acerthorn is quite possibly the epitome of someone who is his own worst enemy, and his correction series is a nice little microcosm of what his issues are. You see, Acerthorn does in-depth analysis on video games, with about 1 million quotes around the word in-depth, by which I mean he will barely play a game in preparation for his retrospective or critique videos. Rather than doing the research to actually know what he's talking about, you know, the absolute bare minimum for making these kinds of videos, he'll instead use cheats and guides on his blind playthrough, ignore the dialogue of NPCs and kill them, constantly make assumptions, get mad, and call the game garbage. The end result is an extremely poorly researched video in which a good 98% of his claims against the game are completely wrong or invalid, or just pure assumption because he decided not to play the rest of the game. This is Acerthorn's first problem. His second problem is his inability to take criticism. As expected with making such poor quality videos, he's received criticism as a result, and my god can this man not handle anyone saying he's wrong. If he's not constantly shilling his own videos or his Patreon to people in his comment section, he's responding to even the mildest criticism with clear disdain and aggression. This is a very common trend with him, and will become more relevant shortly. Now I run a podcast with some friends, in which we often cover poorly made videos, and Acerthorn popped into our radar, and we ended up covering his Morrowind and New Vegas retrospective videos. We started off as we usually do, hoping to hear some good arguments and have a nice discussion, but obviously things went downhill pretty quickly. In these videos, he's constantly getting basic information wrong, and being unnecessarily hostile. To give a couple examples, he claims you're just supposed to stumble upon the information for One for My Baby in New Vegas, and he didn't even get the right person for the quest, even after he took someone else's footage that clearly shows Jenny May being the one who sold Boone's wife. He also claims it's an issue that the bill of sale, the necessary evidence to complete the quest, was kept locked away in a safe, and that it's poor writing that someone would keep incriminating evidence. And as he's saying this, the text of the note on screen explains exactly why the evidence was kept.
Hey, here's a crazy idea. Instead of keeping that bill of sale locked inside a safe, why don't you just, I don't know, burn it? Who the hell keeps a clear paper trail of his criminal exploits? Any reason for that at all? It literally serves no purpose other than to provide the player character with a means of proving he did it. If you want an example,
Jenny May was waiting on further payment, which required the bill of sale to be kept. This isn't deep lore that takes hours of research to learn. This is extremely basic information in a very short quest, and he still somehow missed it and claimed it's the game's fault. He also complained that Morrowind was too brown, and that the setting being on a volcanic island was just an excuse. An excuse for what? Hell if I know. I guess any setting that isn't the right color palette is an issue for our boy Acer. He also made a similar complaint about New Vegas, and said the developers must have a scat fetish to make the game so brown. And now we reach his third problem. His entire videos we covered are filled with arguments this bad and far worse. But on top of it, he's got this shit fucking attitude the entire time, and as a result, our goodwill quickly faded and our coverage turned pretty negative towards poor ol' Acer. After all, it's a tad bit annoying when you're watching someone who didn't do the research, getting stuff wrong constantly, and insulting the game for his own fuck-ups. This leads us to his fourth problem. Acer is very much a rules for thee but not for me type person. He can dish it out, but he can't take it. So he uses his double standard to talk mad shit, but hides behind the demands of civility as an excuse to ignore people critical of him. He calls New Vegas fans dick suckers because he didn't like the game as a result of his own murder hobo playstyle and ignoring most of the dialogue and information in the game.
All over the internet, no matter where you go, nearly any content you find regarding New Vegas will consist almost exclusively of New Vegas fanboys constantly sucking the game's dick. Everywhere I go, it's all about how New Vegas is so much better than any game developed by Bethesda. How New Vegas tore Bethesda a new asshole. How Bethesda just doesn't get Fallout, but Obsidian does. Well, I'm sorry, but if you're going to suck the game's dick like this, you had better be prepared for this game to be held up to that level of scrutiny. Nearly everything this game's fans often praise this game for, I found completely absent in this game. This isn't even a case of a fan thinking that a mechanic or feature is better or more fun than I think it is. This is a case of the fans hyping up the game as having a certain mechanic or feature that the game simply doesn't have.
So, just an unscripted side note I recorded after everything else, because holy shit, I just watched that clip again. Yeah, it's fucking hilarious. He's talking about holding it to a higher fucking standard, and his standard is, well, I played the game and I played it like an idiot and I didn't find the content that was there, so it's not there. Like, motherfucker, you realize that's an objective statement to say, this content is not in the game when it is, and you just missed it because you were playing like a moron. But he can't take us insulting him for things he says that are objectively wrong. He could say all kinds of vile shit, even in a debate which he himself demanded civility. But anyone who says anything mean to him is beyond redemption. They're the worst of the worst. This highlights quite nicely why Acerthorn faces the problems he does. He wants to say anything he wants without restraint, and he doesn't want to receive any clapback for it. He's not the asshole for being a vile and toxic person, not at all. It's everyone else who responds to him who are the toxic assholes. This leads me along quite nicely to his fifth problem, and to his corrections videos and their cancellation. He is insanely disingenuous. Quite possibly one of the most dishonest and disingenuous people I've ever seen on the internet, which is really saying something. So Acer makes his correction videos, which, at a glance, seem like a step in the right direction. He's trying to improve. Awesome, great job, I knew you could do it, buddy.
Now, in my defense, my overall critique still stands, that the Lonesome Road DLC is a boring, linear slog that isn't even worth free-to-play, let alone paying extra as a DLC. But if it makes you feel better and helps you sleep at night, then you may consider this one inconsequential factoid in my video to be corrected.
Or not. See, he can't simply just correct the factual issues in his videos, he has to be a snide, condescending prick about it the entire time. These are less corrections, and more of a fuck you to anyone who is critical of him. As a result of his continued bad attitude towards critics, people continued to criticize him, and he used this as an excuse to cancel his correction series. He wanted to see if people were just critical, that he was wrong about things, or if people hated him for not sharing the same opinions. And because people continued to be critical, he saw it as hate, and therefore took it as confirmation that people were just mad that he didn't like the same games as they did. Literally, the most reductive you could possibly be about this situation, when literally all the responses he got was due to his own poor quality videos and shit attitude.
A lot of people criticize me because I supposedly can't admit when I'm wrong. To rectify this, I started my corrections series on YouTube, but then when I posted my corrections, people still shit all over me. They criticize me for having made the mistake in the first place, and whenever I make a correction on a popular game I don't like, the video's like to dislike ratio takes a huge tanking compared to when I corrected myself on games I still enjoyed. But if it makes you feel better and helps you sleep at night, then you may consider this one inconsequential factoid in my video to be corrected. That only confirms my earlier theory that you're really just butthurt about me not liking these games, and my supposed mistakes are just a pretext to justify your anger. So I'm sorry, but it seems that my corrections series is now cancelled since it's fixing something that was never a problem in the first place.
Suspicious.
See what I mean? He's intentionally hostile and combative in his corrections videos about games he doesn't like, he gets negative response and result, and disingenuously ignores his own shit attitude and a genuinely constructive criticism he received and just claims that it's people butthurt that he doesn't like the same games they do. My friend and co-host Pagan left a comment on one of his corrections videos that had no toxicity or vitriol. It was totally calm, level-headed, and explained the situation clearly. And Acerthorn blocked him. His comment can't be seen on Acer's video by anyone except for Pagan himself. If that wasn't bad enough, Acer seems to constantly go around lying to people about why we were so critical of him when we explained it clearly in stream. At one point, he tried to placate us by saying he did have positive things to say about New Vegas, completely missing the point that we don't care about his feelings on the game, only the factual information about the game that he was presenting, most of which was wrong. We don't give one single solitary fuck whether he likes or dislikes the game. It has literally no bearing on any of our lives if he likes New Vegas or not. All we cared about was the factual information. He couldn't handle the criticism, so he threw a shit fit, and apparently complains about us to this day, 2.5 months later, in streams completely unrelated to us, and he constantly lies to people that we were just mad that he doesn't like the game we do. This brings all of this around to wrap this all up with his sixth problem. He hides behind the subjectivity shield as much as possible because he knows the facts are not on his side. He constantly tries to redirect or misdirect discussion to be about subjective opinions because it's the only way he can claim any kind of victory in these discussions. It's the ultimate cop-out. I'm right because that's my interpretation of the content. With these problems combined, we get the person that is Acerthorn, an incredibly petty and toxic individual who can dish it out, but can't take it. Doesn't do the research, then gets pissy with anyone critical of them, and when push comes to shove, he will lie and deceive and be as disingenuous as possible if he thinks it will make him look like he's the one in the right. In short, what I'm saying is, Acerthorn is a chalk-licking retard. See the bitch.